Mark Mooney, Irish Motocross Nation team manager. So first of all, let's rewind the last year. It was your first year as the team manager. Just how did you find your experience at Redbud? It was nice to see the riders all under a nice awning, and there seemed to be a good vibe between all the riders and a good atmosphere, and I think that's important.
Yeah, how's it going, Andy? Yeah, all good. We had a great experience, the whole lot of us. There was. I don't think the lads wanted for anything. To be honest with you, they were all very happy. I think how it went. Obviously, we didn't get the result that we wanted, but no, it was a good experience for me. I learned a lot, made a lot of new friends. Just learned, how the whole setup goes on a meeting like that, and like the level of the magnitude of the event itself. Like, it's sort of overwhelming when you get there. But once we get into the rhythm over the couple of days, I felt like we were, we were in the mix. Now, obviously, we didn't again get the result, but it's one of those things. You just have to. I think you have to go through the motions of sort of getting the bad side of it before you get to the good side. So I'm hoping this year now we're going to see a little bit more of an improvement there, But it was really mechanical on the day, so it wasn't anything. That the lads did, I suppose, So yeah, no, it was good. I really enjoyed it.
And obviously everyone has a perception from the outside about the management role, but until you're in that position, you don't exactly know everything. So how did you find your first year? I mean, did anything take you by surprise? And I'm sure having that year's experience, you knew exactly what to expect coming into this year.
I actually think we handled it pretty well, Like I run a business myself with a lot of staff, so managing sort of 15 people, to me, it wasn't too overwhelming. It was more just organising logistically everything and timing everything correctly. So the good thing about this event, they sort of give you a timetable, which is it's nice to work off. So you sort of know where you're going to be at every single minute of the day, whether it's on the race day or the day before, or even on the day before that, which is like your welcome, the welcome centre, like where you're picking up the tickets and stuff like that. It's all very much organised from the FIM or MXGP, and they do send you everything sort of quite detailed. So like, if you stick to that, you have a very good chance of not failing, if you know what I mean. But no, it was okay. Didn't really have any problems at all from that side,
And just on last year, obviously we didn't qualify. You've already touched on it slightly with the mechanical, but I thought John Muir rode really, really well in the B final, and even beat Joe Shimoda. So you must have been delighted with his performance.
Yeah, like, to me, John was he had a very good opportunity there last year. Like, he got the bike from Roger from Hitachi there, and like, he sort of did give it his all, in fairness to him. Yeah, like, again, he just So John, like, I thought he performed really well. Obviously was thrown in the deep end, never having done it before, but I do believe he probably could have went a couple of times over the years. Like, he's definitely had the pace, and he was running a very good pace last year. I know Jason got sick, and sort of John slipped into that position in terms of the Irish Championship, because I know Jason was leading at the time. But in fairness to John, he was fully committed. When we were speaking on the phone, he completely convinced me that he was going to do the job. And in fairness to him, he did deliver on the day. And like, to be able to step onto that bike after been riding the KX 450 for sort of most of the year, and now going to jump onto 250, and like, not a standard 250, like a factory 250 pretty much, like, it was super impressive in my opinion. And like, it's a shame that he's sort of given up the racing now, but like, I'm sure if he was still racing, he'd definitely still be in the mix, like, so hopefully we'll see him back on the bike again. Yeah, maybe in the near future, But I wish him all the best, basically,
And just on the selection this year, obviously, it's not rocket science. It probably came down to 4 riders: Barr, Mira, McCormick, and Edmonds. Was it difficult? Obviously, Edmonds, he always steps up at the big events, but at the same time, he didn't have the best of seasons for his standards. Did that sort of get factored into the thinking?
Yeah, like, it's no secret that me and Stuart know each other a long time, and that, like, we're sponsoring him now for probably pretty much the last nearly 10 years, But like, Stuart knows himself, like, he didn't have his best season, okay. He went out last week in Martley Basin, and he showed everybody what he can actually do. But I do believe deep down inside, he knows that he could have had a better season all round. And I know by talking to him that he's actually building now for next year. Like, he's had a lot of, bike issues. He's had a lot of suspension issues. He's up to recently there, his bikes were stolen. You know, I'm sure you probably heard about that. It was well sort of documented and that, you know. So like that was sort of, I'd say the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of, you know, his head for this year. So but I do know he's been building for next year, and I do believe you're going to see a difference to what happens next year. He's in a really good place mentally, and he's in a good place physically, you know, and he's just way more relaxed now. So I just think last week he went out to Marley relaxed, and you could see that in his riding. He just went out and showed up, but he did show up. So obviously that made me think, was my decision on the team, you know, not questionable, but certainly it's just to show everybody how difficult of a task it is. You know, when you see somebody like that you have to leave out, that sort of says how good the other three guys have done this year. In fairness to them, they were the three best guys, best candidates. I can't think of anybody else really.
Yeah, and just on Glenn McCormick, obviously it's a big opportunity for representing his country. He has been knocking on the door for a few years, and I think he deserves to go this year. What's your message going to be to him? Because this might be the only chance he gets to represent his country. It also might not be, but at the same time, you don't want them under too much pressure. You know, just go out there and have fun.
Yeah, like I think you touched on it there. Like to me, like I know what Glenn can do. I've seen him race many times. He actually came down to the meeting at Dublin City Motocross Club 2018, I think it was, and he actually won that event. And like there was all the fast guys were at that event that day, you know. So like I know exactly what he could do. But when he came down that day, there was no pressure on Glenn, absolutely nothing. And he went out and he just rode and he won, you know. So like if I look back, I'm going to put no pressure on Glenn. I just want him to go out and do his best. I don't believe by a team talk going up to say, Glenn, you have to do X, you have to do Y. I actually don't think that's going to work. I think for Glenn anyway, what he should take out of this is just enjoy it, get on the line, relax, totally relax, and probably ride his heart out. And if he does that, I actually think you'll see the skill that he has. Now, I know last week in Martley, he was, you know, you might say he was off the pace, but as the day progressed, he wasn't really that far away. There's like milliseconds here and there through a couple of turns from what I could see, but like he certainly was learning as he on the job, if you know what I mean. And I think if you watched that last race there, I had said to him beforehand, just relax, you know, go out and try and stick with the lads. And in fairness to him, for 5-6 laps, maybe 7 laps, he was hanging in there. They weren't really getting away. So yeah, I just think it's a great opportunity for him. He could be, you know, he could be a dark horse here. Like he's riding the 250 this week. Last week he was on the 350, which, you know, was obviously a jump out of his normal skin. So I think being on the 250, he's back in his comfort zone. He's on a track that, like, it's, you know, it's probably going to be good crack on a 250 because, you know, it's there's a lot of big hills and stuff like that. And, you know, it's just, I just think he's going to do well. But again, I don't want to put him under any pressure. It's going to be totally down to him. As I said, if he's more relaxed than anybody out there, I think he can just enjoy it, and that's where he'll find his speed because he is a very skillful rider. No, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. So I'm delighted to have him on the team. He's a good character. He's already, you know, he's a good head on him. Like even in the last day or two, he's been with us, and he's just good person to have around, you know. Yeah. So I just wish him the best of luck.
And just on Matterdy Basin MXGP, obviously you give the whole team plus the reserve an opportunity to race MXGP, and I have to say, I think that's a brilliant idea. You know, it's less pressure. You know, they haven't got the pressure of representing their country, and they know they don't have to qualify on the Saturday, and it also gives them a chance to see the level. So I think all three, you know, a few of them had issues, but I think it was a great experience for them. And just how did you find the event, really, being in the GP paddock? It's massive, and I think people at home maybe don't realise that.
No, it was. Look, I've been to lots of GPs, I've been to lots of motocross nations over the years, mainly as a spectator, to be fair, but I was sort of more in the thick of it last weekend, and really enjoyed it. It was nice to sort of be mixing it with the lads that, you know, you'd be seeing on the TV screens every other week. But no, it was a good idea, and I do think going forward, if you want to do this Motocross of Nations property or any big event like this, I do think that the top 3, 4, 5 lads in Ireland, North and South, it doesn't really matter, they should be doing at least 3 or 4 GPs a year. And like, I'm happy to get involved with that if that's something that was going to be took on board, you know. So like, okay, we done the UK round. There's no reason why the lads shouldn't be riding in France, maybe Belgium, you know, maybe Latvia, ones that are not that far away in Europe where we can actually get to, you know, where they're well supported and like there's there's possibilities to get there. So like I think that's something we should be exploring, certainly looking at. Like the cost of getting there, it wasn't as bad as people would think, because you can enter as a wild card. You can get like a sort of discounted fee on your license, or not your license but your entry fee. So there is ways of getting there if everyone could sort of come together, some sponsors and maybe the federations, just to actually put the lads out there. I just think it makes such a difference. So my experience from it is that we should be doing it more. That's really what I took from it, because the difference that I saw from Saturday's racing, qualifying, to the actual end result on Sunday, for all of them, to be honest with you. Now, okay, you might say some of them went backwards or some of them went forwards, but like I think they all took the positives out of it. And I think if they went to another GP, aside from the Motocross of the Nations, you would see a difference. You'd see them stepping up into that pace again. And unless you're fired into that deep end with that pace, you're actually never going to be able to ride at that speed. So no, I think it was a really good idea, very productive. It's after inspiring the lads with way more confidence. Like I know today by speaking to them, and even yesterday, like they're so happy they did that. They're not jumping into France here now in the deep end. They sort of know what they expect. They know where they have to be, and I think the pressure that would have been on them if we hadn't done that would be way, way greater than it is today.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And of course, one rider that has been racing regularly in the GP paddock in the EMX 125 series is McCulloch. I think what he's doing is amazing, really. He's the first rider from Ireland really to do it. So what's your thoughts on him as a rider? And it's probably not too long before he'll be lining up for Ireland at this event. But obviously, I think he's still 14, so he's actually too young this year.
Yeah, look, you can see that I spoke to Cole at Martley just briefly. He was up in the same area where we were watching the race, and he's very relaxed. You can certainly see that from him. Like this type of racing or this type of setup, the paddock, it doesn't phase him one single bit. Like it's just like going to a local race out your backyard for him. That's what it felt like to me by talking to him. It doesn't phase him whatsoever. So that's a very positive thing. So I don't think you put him on any track in Europe and he'll be phased. So that's the first thing that's good. Obviously, the second thing, he's got Philip there behind him, pushing, and is probably the driving force in this, to get him to where he's going. So, I think if he stays in the same direction that he's going, he's injury free. He comes of age a little bit. He's still very young. There's absolutely no reason why he won't be in that team going forward, and probably be a very big player in the team, in fact, going forward. And there's no reason why he won't be there. And I'd love to see him there someday. But he's just got to obviously, just keep doing what he's doing. Like, if you go back a few years, you could argue that Ireland had a much easier, maybe pickings, you might call it. Go back 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, where we had the likes of Gordon Cockard, we had Martin when he was at his absolute peak, we had Graham Irwin. These just picked themselves. Whereas now we're coming into a situation where you've got Stewart, you've got Martin. They're sort of coming to the end of the road, you might call it. Now they might argue that they're not, but I know by age and the way this sport progresses, you will only get another year or two. Once you hit 35 plus, you're sort of coming to a stage where it just mightn't happen again. So it is nice to see younger guys coming through. Obviously, Cole, probably the number one quickest guy we've got at the minute. But there's one or two guys not too far behind him either, that I believe if we saw them all race together in the same event, maybe like in an EMX 125 event, or even in a British Championship. There's other names you could mention there. I know there's Lennox Dickinson, there's Finn Wilson, Young Farley. They're all quick, but again, it's how long they actually decide to stick at this and keep going with it, But I do believe Cole, he probably will, from what I can see anyway, and with the body of people he has around him, the support network he has around him, and again with his dad just knowing so many people and able to put stuff together for him in the right direction. I think you're going to see, my fingers are crossed, that we're going to see a really good rider here coming out of this guy. And if we do, we have a team member on the Motocross Nation for a long, long time,
Yeah,
but again, he has to get there,
And just turning our attentions to this week again, I mean, what are the goals for Team Ireland this weekend? I mean, qualifying these days isn't as easy as it used to be because, as you touched on, you know, we had a team that used to pick itself. Crockett, who was a full-time GP rider, so for him it was just another race. You had Irwin and you had Barr. We don't quite have, you know, a full-time GP rider anymore. And then you've got some of the smaller countries that actually have that, which maybe didn't in the past. So it's certainly not getting any easier to qualify. But I'm sure the goal will be to try and get straight through this weekend.
Yeah, look, you said it there yourself. Like, it is, some nations have strong team, but they have an elite rider within that, and that one particular rider could get that team over the line, you know. But then there's the other side of that where, you know, it mightn't quite happen like that. If you look at last year, go back to Red Bull, like Joe Shimoda, the rider for Japan, I don't think they got through.
Nope, they never.
They didn't, you know. So, like, you would think on paper they're going through, but again, they didn't. So, like, it's an open competition, and I believe if the three of them do their best on the day and actually can qualify and get in the mix, get a good start, and just hang in there and just put the pressure on, I don't see why we can't get through. And anything can happen. But I have to say this: we do need some luck, you know, as well. And it doesn't always go your way, but if we can get a tiny bit of luck just to get this happening here, and sometimes that's what you need, you know. But I do believe as well, you make your own luck. So the harder you try, sometimes the luckier you get. So I believe if they give it our 100% all, we might just get that little piece of luck that gets us there. The goal is to get into the A final on Saturday, but we will take a B final if we have to do it. I know it's exciting for everybody else out there to watch it, but for somebody like me, you know, I would much prefer us to be in there on Saturday afternoon, looking back, reflecting, looking at the times, going, right, we're here, we've done it, you know, and we can actually relax and not get up on Saturday, Sunday morning, you know, in a, not a panic, but certainly with more pressure, that pressure feeling. And I don't think the lads, some of them may perform better under pressure, but I think it would be just way more better from our side, from the management side anyway, just to see us through on Saturday. So fingers crossed we can do it, you know.
And final,
I wish them all the best of luck.
Yeah, final question from me really is, this is obviously your second year as Irish team manager. Do you see yourself in this role for a long term, or is it just going year by year at the moment?
Like, it's not up to me, Andy.
Well, if it was up to you, like, would you? Is this a long term thing for you personally? Would you like it to be a long term thing?
Look, I enjoy what I'm doing. I've 4 kids at home. They're very young. For me to do this, my work has to be sacrificed for at least, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 weeks of the year, because of the time that I lose putting effort into getting this job done, as in getting us here, and then for the week that's in it when we're actually here, like, you know, it's quite intense. People don't see that, but there's, as I said from the start, with the MXGP setup, they give us like a schedule. You just have to stick to it. And it might sound easy on paper, but when you're orchestrating that with 10 or 15 people behind you and to have us there every single time, it's actually not that easy, you know. So stress levels, I handle stress pretty well, but I mean, I don't know if this job is for everybody. So I actually think I'm well able to do it. It's one of those jobs where, you know, you mightn't get a whole lot of love from anybody for doing it. But if you love the sport of motocross, which I do, you'll do it. So if your question to me is, am I going to continue to do it? The answer is yes, I will, until they tell me that it's not my job, if you know what I mean. As in, if you give this role to somebody, you need to be able to have a good bit of backing behind you. Now, I'm not talking about my own company personally or anything like that. You need to have contacts. You need to have people that are prepared to hand over money that they've earned out of their own pocket to actually pay for this event, because sometimes you have to actually drag it out of them. And okay, we have a list of about maybe 30, 40 sponsors there. And from last year, half of them only gave me the money this year. So if you can just think about that for a second, we got, say, 40 guys involved last year. Yeah. Not the recession, but the economy's took a downturn this year. And like, if half of them decided that they could still help us, which is brilliant, and the other half they didn't, but like, they might next year, you know. So the thing is, if you're coming to this to do this job, you can't come unprepared with terms of your weight, as in backing behind you. You have to have like good credentials, good contacts, good reach, and good ability to actually extract money out of people, because otherwise it won't happen, you know. So I feel I have that, which is in place, and it's sort of a good base. And if anyone was going to get this job after me, I explained to them before the actual event, before the logistics, whatever it is, you need to have a very, very good plan in place to get the money. Because if you don't have that, it's not going to happen. Because in fairness to the two associations, the MRA, the MCI, they do contribute to it as best they can. But it's only, when you look at the actual cost of it, it's only a very small proportion of what we actually spend. So no, it's not an easy task for anybody. So I'll do it while I'm able to do it. And as long as they want me to do it, I'd love to do it. But somebody putting their hand up to do it, they need to be prepared, because it's not easy.
That's perfect, Mark. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck to Team Ireland this weekend.